Thanks for staying with us. Welcome back. The conversation is interesting, both when we're with you and when we're just talking, waiting to get back with you when we're on break. Indeed, it's extremely interesting. And before the break, I did promise, I said we'll come back to Tanwashu and this psychology thing with the security forces. There was this very lively debate between Ijoma and Prof and so on over the difference between our own people in uniform and those in other places, maybe more advanced economies. But I remember, while that discussion was going, I remember that the late fella Nicola Pokuti used to say that uniform na cloth, na tailor de swan. Ha. So emphasizing the fact that the person inside is a human.
Yes.
It's a human being. Are we overemphasizing that human part in our security forces as against what is obtainable elsewhere?
Okay, so professionally, security personnel shouldn't be bothered as to how they're dressed or not. In that sense, if I'm supposed to guard this door and make sure nobody comes in, I shouldn't have just because a girl comes or a guy comes and he's so friendly and he gives me lunch and I'm like, you know what, Oga enter. That's just completely wrong. So no matter how you're treated, if you're told to do something, you're supposed to maintain that tempo all through. So it shouldn't matter. But we know this is Nigeria. We understand culture. And I'll be honest with you, I'm one of those people that I'm extremely kind to security guards. When I see them, at least I greet them. Exactly, because they're often neglected, and I know they don't get paid a lot of money. So sometimes, I greet them, and even acknowledging them, sometimes they're very helpful just because of that. Yeah. So that's just a human factor. Now, let's talk about the leadership aspect of these things. One of the recommendations that we often give leaders in these spaces are, look, you need to encourage your subordinates to be able to come up to you with the truth. Sometimes, yes.
Yeah,
now, a lot of times, yes. You understand.
Yeah,
so it's usually very tough because, I've had conversations with, for instance, Intel analysts, and they'll tell you, look, we've written the reports. We've told them this is going to happen. But does the Oga actually listen to them? Not necessarily. So this is where we say, look, as leaders of these organizations, you need to sometimes even have red teams. And having a red team, blue team is pretty much you saying, you know what? Tell me everything that could go right with this operation. You'll go well, operation this will be a knockout, we'll do a great job. Fine. Now you, tell me everything that will go wrong with this organization and tell me the truth. So that way, you're almost forcing the people around you to not just be yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, but honestly give me your honest feedback and your opinion about these things. So what we've seen so far is that our leaders don't necessarily do that. As soon as they walk into a room, everyone's all jittery and, yes, sir. And so you're not encouraging people to really give you the status quo and tell you the truth.
But does that work in the in the uniformed services as well? Because I can, as a civilian, walk into my boss's office and I can conceivably tell him the truth because that is the culture that has been built. But in the military or in the uniformed services, the idea is that if you've been given a directive by a superior officer, you're not supposed to question it or ask for clarifications. You're just supposed to obey.
Yeah, so usually, and that's what it is, especially if you're far removed. If you're given orders, you have to obey the orders. Now, this advice is usually for the leaders themselves. Look at your leadership style. If you want to be effective with the guy on the ground, make an avenue open for you to even be able to hear directly from them. And I'll give you, this is one of the things that I remember the U.S. military generals, they really got this right. They always remember to just go back to the young airmen or the young soldiers and just really get a pulse for how their personnel are feeling about things. For them, it even gave them a reality check that before I start sending these young men up and down, let me really understand that they are humans, they're young boys as well, they've left their moms and so on. So it's just really, it's an advice for the leaders of these organizations. Yes, at the end of the day, you're going to make the decision. You're going to tell them, go and raid this place. But just always remember and try to get both sides of the story and make sure they're honest with you, because if you really ask your personnel, you'll find out that they have other opinions that would probably help your decision making.
Okay, we've been talking about leaders, and I wanted to talk about followers in terms of the gains. I know my producer will throttle me because we're talking about this if I don't get this in. And I'm asking this because 59 years on, you look at the average Nigerian, even if you're not looking at the average, you look at Nigerians generally, what have they got out of the nation? You see an American with all the pride, they wear their stripes and they're singing all their beyond the anthem, they have so many, patriotic songs that they sing and all that. Some people don't even know the second verse of the anthem. Let's leave that aside. When you look at the citizens themselves, the president today was talking about continuing the SIPs, that's the trader money, Empower, all the various things that this administration put together. But then people look at SIPs and they yawn because they're coming from the social adjustment program, you win, and things that they didn't actually win in the end. When you look at the social investment in the life of the average Nigerian, Mr. Daniel, I'm coming to you. How impressed are you with the state of the average Nigerian, 59 years on?
Not impressed at all. It's a no-brainer. It's not a question anyone should ask. Okay?
But would you concede that they had made any gains? Because
Exactly. That's actually where I'm going.
That's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
They have been a generation that their hopes have been dashed over and over and over again. You see, continuum. It's government. There must be continuum.
But they
There must
reeled
be-
out how much they've put into trader money in particular. It was a big issue.
Yes.
With the
Yes.
timing and why is it now? And,
Yes.
Eventually, these people got into court and it was like, that's not even an issue.
Yes. Yes.
But we're looking at, okay, in the last 4 years, for instance.
Look, again, these are initiatives that are temporary, immediate initiatives. They're not long-term initiatives. So for temporal, we say, okay, it's a good initiative. People are being touched. We would probably find out the outcome of it maybe in 2023, not now, because we start getting the feedback of how they felt, But this is the problem we have. There is never a long-term program that will go past, different governments. I tell you something. I spent some time in Indonesia, yeah, and I found out that I was sitting one day with an ex-governor, at a table we were discussing, and there was a new governor. The new governor ended up becoming the president now, and I was just saying to him that there were some things that you did, and people weren't particularly happy with you, and that's why they voted you out. And I wish that you could have done more. And he looked at me and says to me that, quite frankly, the way the system is that there's already been a plan. Mm-hmm. Every government that comes in, regardless of which party, you follow through with the plan. You understand? And just listening to him, and I was thinking, in Nigeria, we don't have that.
Yes, but sorry to go to show, because I want to ask Prof.
Yes.
Because Prof had said he hasn't heard anything about education on this floor. And my mind went to the homegrown school feeding program.
All right.
And there's been so much talk about that, vis-a-vis the number of out-of-school children. Right. I'm just confused, because when the thing came up, we saw pictures, documentaries about how children are now rushing to school. People are now enrolling children because there's so much nutritious food going on there. And I thought, yeah, this is basic education. And then now you see the statistics of us leading in terms of the number of children that are not even in school at all. So, Prof, what is happening?
Giving children food, it's just a way of saying, okay, have your own part of the cake, the national cake. because they know that, okay, we don't have food at home, I better go to school. And even the parents too will say, better go to school, you get food there. Rather than bothering them, to look for money and give them food. So it's not just giving them food that really make people to stay in the school and listen to what they're being taught. It's rather reconciliating the minds of the people, changing the psyche of the people. Say, look, if you know this, you'll be able to do this, you'll be able to do this, you'll be able to do that. That is what will make people to be in school. And the parents too need to see the need for schooling. It's not a parent that you say, well, you're a lady, you don't need to go to school. Or you're a guy child, you don't need to go to school. Even if they encourage them to go to school during the time that they're giving them meal, it's just because they want to take part of the national cake.
In other words, they will just have the meal.
They just have the meal.
And then return home.
And return home.
Subsequently.
Yes, subsequently.
And there's even no research.
But this is the thing.
Yes.
This is the thing. And just to piggyback on what he's saying. Yes, it's an initiative that brings kids to school. So the kind of politics I believe that we should be is acknowledge them when they're doing what is right. Okay? To an extent, the government has done certain things that are right. No problem about that. But this is not solving the main issue. Okay? Some government will build schools. Building schools is not the issue. we need to invest in our teachers. We need to invest in our teachers. This is where the money should go into. You know, these are things that you see, all of these things are not serious things. The main issue is that we need to begin to bring pride to the teachers. Like what I was saying in the Nigerian police force, the welfare, there has to be pride in them being teachers and being happy to do what they do. But you don't
So
have
on
a
that thought,
situation.
I'm going to have to put you on pause. We're going to have to take a break, a quick break. When we come back, Mr. Ojukwu in Abuja and Barrister Sadatu Mohammed, we haven't forgotten you. I hope you're following the trend of the conversation. We're coming to you once we return from the break for your own thoughts on this part of the discussion. So please stay on with us.